Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and I am honored and privileged that you've decided to make this show a part of your day today. Got a whole bunch of stuff we got to run through today. If you want a sneak peek at some of the topics, you can look in the description of this video and you'll see some of the sneak peeks. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off the show by taking a bunch of topics that you guys have emailed into me. How do you email a topic into me? It's simple. Simply email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. And this is important, guys. Make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line, or else I'm not going to see the email that you guys send into me. Now, after I get through all the topics and questions that you guys have sent into me via email, I'm going to go to the live chat board, the guys who are watching the show live right now, and I'm going to save a few minutes at the end of the show for that. Now, how do you get a live question on if you're watching live? Simply jump on Twitter and tweet to me at John Campea. Start out your tweet with at John Campea and send in your tweet. And I'm going to get to just as many of the Twitter questions live at the end of the show as I possibly can. Okay, so last couple of days have been a little bit nuts. We've had a Justice League trailer. We've had a Thor Ragnarok screening with a whole bunch of Twitter reactions coming out. Flash started back up again last night. We've had the new Star Wars trailer dropped. I mean, there's just been a whole bunch of stuff in the last couple of days. So let's round it all out and see what you guys are talking about. And we start today with the first question. And the first question today comes to us from Tim in Seattle. And Tim in Seattle's got a question about one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Always love hearing your opinion and insights. Thank you so much, Tim. What do you think of the upcoming Professor Marston and the Wonder Women movie? And would you like to see a similar movie for Batman and Superman? Personally, I would very much like to see it happen. Thanks for taking my question and keep it up. Okay, well, for those of you who don't know, there's this movie coming out, you can see the poster for it right here, called Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. And it's about the guy who creates the character of Wonder Woman. But it's about, at least the trailer suggests, it's about a lot more than that. Now, it's got one of my favorite actors in there. Luke Evans is playing the lead role, and he's fantastic. I just love that dude. So you got Luke Evans playing the lead, and yes, it's about the guy who creates Wonder Woman. But it seems to me by watching the trailers, and you've got to watch the trailers, it seems to me that it's kind of a... It seems like the creation of Wonder Woman is the background for the story. Because it really is a story about the controversy surrounding the guy and his marriage. Because number one, when you talk about Wonder Woman, as they show in the trailer, a lot of people are upset with Wonder Woman because there seems to be a lot of violence and sadomasochism and like bondage and all this kind of freaky stuff at the time would have been considered really risque in a comic book. So people were questioning that. But on top of that, his whole life was outside of the social norm because him and his wife, played by Rebecca Hall, who is awesome. By the way, Rebecca Hall, I think, is one of the most tragically underappreciated actresses in the business today. Every time she appears in the movie, she's awesome. She appeared, most of you might remember her from Iron Man 3. She was that one dark-haired scientist in Iron Man 3. I first took notice of Rebecca Hall in this Woody Allen film 6, 7, 8 years ago called Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Now, Rebecca Hall was basically the lead character in the film, but she wasn't even on the poster. The top three billed people in the movie were Penelope Cruz, Scarlett Johansson, and Javier Bardem, understandably because they were the three biggest stars at the time. And the big salacious scene in Vicky Cristina Barcelona is, of course, this big threesome that happens between Penelope Cruz, Scarlett Johansson, and Javier Bardem. And that's the thing. And Rebecca Hall, even though she's kind of the lead of the movie, she kind of gets pushed out of the way a little bit. But that's the movie that I recognized her really for the first time and went, wow, this lady is crazy talented. And she's so good now. I always get peaked up whenever I see that she's in a movie. Anyway, so Luke Evans and Rebecca Hall play this married couple, and they're professors in a university. And basically, the woman you see here, she's one of Luke Evans' students, and they form a three-way relationship between them. Luke Evans, Rebecca Hall, and the new student girl. And that becomes, that relationship, at least according to the trailers, kind of becomes the basis, and his experience within that becomes the basis for the creation of Wonder Woman. It looks fascinating. Like, I'm really curious to see what they do, because I actually love movies that are set in older time periods with people who lived outside the social norms, whether it's a question about race or sexuality or religion or whatever. I kind of really dig these stories. So this one's really got my interest. Now, when you ask the question, would I be equally as interested to see the same type of movie about the creation of Batman, or say the creation of Superman? It's hard to say, because I honestly don't know if there's any interesting story behind the creation of Batman. I honestly don't know if there's any interesting story behind the creation of Superman, other than the fact that Superman was created by a Canadian. So besides that, it would be cool to see that. But honestly, I just don't know. And before this movie was coming out, and I started learning more about this movie, I didn't know what an interesting story laid behind the creation of Wonder Woman. So it's the interesting story behind the story that's got me interested. If you can show to me that there's an equally interesting story behind the creation of Batman, or behind the creation of Captain America, or behind the creation of Superman, or behind the creation of Iron Man, or whatever, if you can show me there's an equally interesting story behind that, then yeah, I'll be all for it. For right now, I've got my focus completely squared on Professor Marston and the Women. Guys, put this movie on your radar. I think it's going to be something pretty special. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Jack Spittle, who writes, with the unfortunate event that has occurred in Las Vegas, Ryan Murphy has come to a decision in not airing a scene in his newest season of American Horror Story Cult, which involved a mass shooting. While I can understand editing it out, is it really necessary to remove the scene that could cause distress than to just place a disclaimer in front of it? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And hey, it's a great question. In light of everything that's gone on in Vegas, with, I guess it's the worst mass shooting in the history of the country, American Horror Story Cult made the decision to pull a scene that showed a mass shooting. I applaud them for that. I think that's very culturally sensitive. I applaud them for doing it. I understand their reasons for doing it. Do I think it's necessary or required for them to pull that scene out? Actually, no. I don't think it's required or absolutely necessary. Now, you may say, but John, like, we just faced this horrible, tragedy. Absolutely. I'm not denying that at all. And I applaud their decision to take the scene out. I think that's a great decision. I think that's very noble of them to do. But at the same time, had they decided to leave that scene in there, because remember, they shot that scene before the events of Las Vegas. It's not like the events of Las Vegas happened and say, oh, that gives me an idea. Let's make a mass shooting scene. It's not like that happened. They had already made the scene. So if they had decided to leave the scene in, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. And the basis for me not having a problem with it, had they decided to leave it in, and again, I applaud that they took it out, is that art is about reflecting life. Art is about putting a mirror up to ourselves as a culture and as a world and as a people, and seeing it reflected back at us. Here's a thing. My argument would be this. If you make the argument that you have to take out any scene in a movie or a television show that kind of reflects or is similar to a tragedy that has happened in real life, if you say that, then you can never have a scene in any TV show or movie with a car accident. You can never have a scene in any television or movie with a character having cancer. Like, hey, look, 58, 59 people died in Las Vegas. The worst mass shooting in history. It's horrible. Do you know how many people die every day in car accidents? 38,000 people in the United States alone died in 2015 from car accidents. 38,000. That's over 120 people a day. Every single day, 120 people in this country die in a car accident. And that's horrible, and that's tragic, and that destroys families, and that destroys lives, and all that kind of stuff. Does that then mean, well, since there's so much tragedy and so many more people out there who have been touched by the tragedy of automobile accidents, Does that mean that in the stories we tell, we should never have automobile accidents? I reject that thinking because I think part of the responsibility of art is to reflect life in all of its good and all of its terribleness sometimes. I think that's what brings value to the art. Again, I applaud the decision to take that scene out. I think that was very noble of them to do, and I understand their reasons for doing it, and I think it's great. I'm just saying that I wouldn't have been opposed to the idea had they decided to leave it in, because number one, they didn't film it as a result of Las Vegas. It was already done. And part of number two, it is unfortunate in this country, the United States of America, that this sort of thing is not all that rare. And I mean, it's horrible to say that, but it is part of life. And it is part of what has happened in our culture and in our society. And again, my argument is simply that if we say, well, there was a terrible tragedy, we shouldn't have anything in our art that resembles it, then again, how many people die every year of cancer? How many people die every year of car accidents? How many people die every year of this or of that or of the other? I mean, it's just, I think we've got to be very careful about giving the artists and the studios and the television networks the freedom to decide if they should leave scenes like that in their movies or in their shows, or give them the option to not have them in there. I'm just against the idea of us thinking that you must take that sort of content out. But John, people who are affected by Las Vegas might be deeply troubled by seeing that in there. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. But by the same logic, again, I'll keep going back to the same example. You show a car accident, you've got 1 million people that were personally affected by the events of a car accident somewhere. So if we're going to draw a line, you've got to be willing to follow through with that logic. So, I mean, it's a tough question. It's a big question. It's a question that kind of is within the realm of movies and entertainment. What do we do? But it kind of transcends beyond that as well. It's a human question. And I just think we need to be thoughtful about it. And maybe we'll come to different conclusions. I'm not sure. But it's a great conversation to have. Thank you so much for the question. Those are just my 2 cents on it. Maybe you guys have a totally different way of seeing it. Jump into the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Cooper. And Cooper writes, what do you think about studios putting certain characters or creatures in films primarily for toy/merchandise sales? People thought that with Baby Groot, Jar Jar, and the recent Porgs in Episode 8, James Gunn says Baby Groot was the plan all along, which makes sense, but it's easy to see it being bankable. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, if any of you guys have ever heard that infamous Kevin Smith story, the way Kevin Smith tells a story about how he almost directed the death of Superman, one of the items in that story is when the producer, John Peters, comes to him and says, yeah, we should have a little robot sidekick for Superman and make him a gay robot side character for Superman. Great, we got to make the toys. The toys will sell like crazy. So that is a part of the movie world. And look, in general, I don't have a problem with that as long as the toy, the character thing you're trying to put into the movie, if you come up with a narrative way why that character that you're just putting in there for toy sales contributes to the narrative and becomes a part of the narrative and doesn't feel awkward or out of place. Here's the funny thing about this character, Baby Groot. James Gunn says they didn't put in Baby Groot just for toy sales, and you know what? I can 100% confirm that. They didn't. They didn't. Because when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and maybe I shouldn't be talking about this because it's a little insider baseball, but whatever. It's long past, so I'm sure it's not an issue. But as many of you know, my wife is a person over at Hasbro. Hasbro makes a lot of Marvel toys. They had no Baby Groot product. And I remember there was a lot of people who, when Baby Groot came out, like in the toy industry, when Baby Groot came out at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I got to get a toy of that. What do you mean there are no toys of that? They were not prepared. And I don't know how. That is one of the biggest, merchandising blunders of all time, was that they didn't realize when they made this Baby Groot character that everybody would be running out and trying to find a toy of it, and they just weren't prepared. They were not prepared for that. So I can 100% confirm for you when James Gunn says we didn't make Baby Groot for toy sales, we never even thought of that. I can 100% absolutely confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is absolutely true, because they had no product ready for that when it came. Not that there wasn't anything with Baby Groot in it, there were, but they did not have a targeted Baby Groot toy sales drive ready whatsoever. They had none of that prepared, so I can confirm that. Jar Jar Binks, while George Lucas has made a lot of his money off of merchandising and toy sales from Star Wars and things like that, Jar Jar Binks, I'd like to be able to say Jar Jar Binks was just a toy move, but George Lucas really believed in Jar Jar Binks. George Lucas really believed that Jar Jar Binks was going to be one of the key elements narrative-wise to his brand new Star Wars movies. That's what George Lucas believed. And so it didn't quite work out. Now, obviously it does happen. We see it happen all the time, that there are certain characters and things in movies that are obviously just there for toys and merchandise sales. I get that. It is. But once again, I'm fine with it as long as the movie makers make them a part and that those characters contribute to the narrative. If they do that, then they're just like any other character to me. It's when they fail to do that that it stands out and becomes an issue. All right, let's move on to the next question. And you know what? Before I move on to the next question, I should point out that Cooper, as I mentioned, is a Patreon supporter of mine. Let me take a little commercial break here to shamelessly plug my Patreon. You know, I don't work for the corporate overlords anymore. I made the decision to not work for corporations. I wanted to do this clean. I wanted to do it pure. I wanted to do it with just myself. I didn't want to have corporate bosses telling me what to do. So I decided to step out, do things on my own, and I'm able to do that full time and make all these videos that I make because of my Patreon supporters. Do me a favor, guys, if you haven't done so, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/John Campea. Get all the information there about what it means to be a Patreon supporter of mine, what it does, how being a Patreon supporter actually makes these shows possible, and some of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. And if then you want to become one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. But if you don't, that's totally fine too. I'm just glad you're here being a part of the show with us. Okay, now with the shameless plug out of the way, now let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Odile Jones, who writes, "Hey John, love your stuff. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. Based on its lack of mention at Comic-Con and the picture David Ayer tweeted of Joker and Harley a month or so ago, is Gotham City Sirens officially off the table for now, and Ayer has jumped ship to work on the Joker/Harley Quinn movie?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And you know what? There has been a lot of chat and discussion and whispers and rumors about the upcoming Gotham City Sirens movie because, number one, we've never heard anything about it. Like, nothing new has ever come out, no new news, nothing like that has come out about it. But number two, and this is more significant, when Comic-Con came along and they talked about all their upcoming projects and they put the big, screen up with all the titles coming up, there was a movie very obviously missing, which was Gotham City Sirens. So that wasn't there. That got people whispering. David Ayer's getting attached to other things and all that. That got more people whispering. Now, about a month ago, Forbes magazine, and a guy I know, a really smart guy I know by the name of Mark Hughes, he put out an article saying, I believe it was in August, he put out an article saying, hey, I know there's a lot of rumors that Gotham City Sirens has been killed, but I can confirm that it's still in development. Now, what Mark bases that statement of his on, as far as I can tell, is that he talked to a rep at Warner Brothers who told him that Gotham City Sirens is still very important to us. So Mark took that, if I am understanding it right, Mark took that and interpreted that as, oh, it's still in development, they're still making it. I don't know that I do. I've never liked the idea of a Gotham City Sirens movie, but that's just me. I can't help but wonder if Warner Brothers just realized they had better ideas. They had better ideas for better DCEU movies, and they might have moved on from it. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. There has been no official word about Gotham City Sirens still being on. There has been no news about any movement really whatsoever, other than that one statement from Forbes back in August saying that Warner Brothers saying that the characters in that movie are still very, very important to them. Maybe that means they are still developing it. Maybe it means they're not. I'm not really sure yet. I would have no problem if they took it off the table and moved forward. Like, to be honest, I'm much more interested in this Harley Quinn and Joker movie. I'm far more interested in that than I am in a Gotham City Sirens movie. I'm far more interested in a Batgirl movie than I am a Gotham City Sirens movie. I'm far more interested in a new Green Lantern movie than I would be in a Gotham City Sirens movie. I just still strongly suspect Warner Brothers realized they had better ideas and they moved on to better ideas. But who knows? Maybe it's still coming. What do you guys want a Gotham City Sirens movie? Or would you rather Warner Brothers be putting their attention elsewhere? Jump into the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on now. We got 2 more questions and then we're going to go to the live chat board. The next question comes to us from Jeremy Miller. And Jeremy Miller writes, why would Warner Brothers release a Justice League trailer a day before The Last Jedi's trailer? All the buzz on Twitter now is for episode 8. Thoughts? All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, Jeremy. And yes, Justice League dropped their trailer the other day. Solid trailer. I didn't quite like it as much as the Justice League Comic-Con trailer. That Justice League Comic-Con trailer, I went bananas for it. I absolutely love that Justice League trailer. This one, I think, is solid. It's a good trailer. I just didn't like it as much as the previous one. But another good trailer. The timing was odd because, Mark Hamill let it slip months ago that on October 9th, there was going to be a new Star Wars The Last Jedi trailer. So Warner Brothers knew that Disney was going to be launching a Star Wars The Last Jedi trailer on the 9th. So was it a mistake for Justice League to drop their trailer on the 8th and then have Star Wars come after it? Honestly, no. I don't think it was a mistake. Would it have been a mistake to launch it on the same day? Maybe that would have been a mistake. But the day before, no. Remember, we're not talking about releasing the movie the day before. It's not like people would have had to get themselves ready, drive a half hour to the movie theater, watch the movie for 2+ hours, drive home, that you've committed 4 or 5 hours of your evening now. It's not like we're asking them to do that and then do it again the next day. We're talking about a trailer that they're sitting at home and pop on for 2.5 minutes. And in today's internet world, with the news cycle being what it is, I do not think the Justice League trailer and the pop from the Justice League publicity honestly hurt all that much from the fact that the Star Wars trailer dropped the next day. I really don't. I used to think differently about that, but I don't now. People can watch 2 trailers 50 times each day and still be in time for lunch. So I honestly don't think it hurt it that much. I really don't. I think are more people today talking about the Star Wars Episode 8 trailer than talking about the Justice League trailer. Yes, they are. But that would have happened even if the Star Wars trailer came out the day before the Justice League trailer. The Star Wars trailer is just a better trailer. And it's got a little bit more hype behind it because it's Star Wars. So that was going to happen anyway. I don't think Warner Brothers made a mistake at all putting it the day before. If anything, I think it added to the buzz. It created a snowball effect because now we had these 2 huge trailers drop back to back on consecutive days. I don't think it hurt it. I really don't. I think everything is just fine. And the way they did it worked out just fine. I really do. But maybe you guys have a different point of view. Jump into the comments section and let me know what you guys think. All right, we move on now to the final email question of the day, and then we're going to go over to take your live questions. And the final email question today comes to us from Jason Fay, who writes, if we fast forward 30 years from now, how do you think Clint Eastwood would be remembered? Number 1, as a storyteller, or number 2, as an actor? That is a terrific question because Clint Eastwood is undoubtedly, whether you're talking about him as an actor, whether you're talking about him as a director, he is a bona fide Hollywood treasure. Now, I'm going to bring up something here as long as I can find it. Where did it go? Oops, I did the wrong thing. I'm going to find something. This is the beauty of doing these shows without any help, guys, having to do all this completely by myself without any technical support. All right. So Clint Eastwood, I believe 5 of his films, I could be wrong about that, but I believe the number is 5. 5 of the films that he has directed has been nominated for Best Picture. He's won a number of Academy Awards. He won the Oscar for Best Motion Picture for $1 Million Baby. He was nominated for a whole bunch of others. He won the Oscar for Best Picture for Unforgiven. He won the Oscar for Best Director for Unforgiven. He's been nominated for Best Director a number of times on top of that. Up till about 20 years ago, no one ever thought of Clint Eastwood as a director, which is completely understandable. Like before, maybe a little bit more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before Unforgiven, people didn't think of Clint Eastwood as a director. They thought of him as Clint Eastwood, the movie star. And that's great. That's wonderful because he's an iconic movie star. But unless I'm mistaken, I don't think he's got any Academy Award nominations for acting. Not that he's not a great actor. He's an iconic actor. But it's what he did and it continues to do. I loved his movie Sully. I thought his movie Sully was great. It's what he continues to do as a filmmaker that I think is going to be the thing that defines the Clint Eastwood life, is going to be his work as a filmmaker. You know, if you're going to talk about, you know, who belongs in like that top 30 as the best who ever did it, I think Clint Eastwood is going to belong in that conversation. He's going to be one of the pantheon of the gods when it comes down to filmmakers. One of the greatest ever, easily top 30, maybe top 20. And I think on that basis alone, I think 20 years from now, when we're talking about Clint Eastwood, and hopefully he's still with us making movies, but I think 20 years from now, when we talk about Clint Eastwood, I honestly think the first part of the conversation is going to be Clint Eastwood, the unbelievable multi-Academy Award winning, multiple Academy Award nominated filmmaker as opposed to the actor. And that does not diminish at all the iconic roles he's played, the iconic films he's done. I just think it's even more iconic what he's done as a filmmaker. All right, guys, with that stuff out of the way, we are now going to go to the live Twitter board. If you guys are watching live, once again, tweet. And by the way, make sure you're following me on Twitter at John Campea, because I tweet a whole lot of stuff all the time. But once again, if you're watching live, tweet to me at John Campea right now. Send that on in. I am now going to open up the Twitter board and see what we got there. Again, I don't have anybody here screening these for me, so this is just me going through them myself. So we'll have this here. The first question that we've got coming up here comes to us from Mumbix. I like that name. John, Kevin Smith once talked about making the Question movie. Who would be your choice to direct this film and why? Why? Cheers. Again, you guys know my answer to this. What director should direct X? I don't care. As long as it's a talented director, that's all I care about. So that's really my thought on this. Let's see. Next question comes us from R. Drago66, who writes, John, thoughts on it becoming the 10th highest grossing film worldwide this year, knocking Transformers The Last Night down and out. Hey, look, I always celebrate when a good movie succeeds. I always celebrate when a bad movie gets knocked down a little bit. Look, there's still no denying Transformers made a lot of money, but it made a lot less money than the previous film, and that's because the reputation of Transformers being horrible films is now catching up to it. People aren't buying into it like they used to blindly, me included. People used to just, oh, it's a new Transformers movie. Okay, we'll go see it. And now they've put out bad film after bad film after bad film, and now we're seeing it's finally caught up with them. But again, my thoughts on it cracking the top 10. It's a good movie that's succeeding. I celebrate that. I think that's great. I always celebrate when good movies succeed. Let's see here. The next one comes to us from Last Journey Y, who writes, John, what are conditions for Justice League to become the highest grossing comic book movie or reach the $2 billion club? How good would it have to be? Well, look, it's not, let's just call this right now. It is not going to join the $2 billion club. Not a chance in hell. The first one didn't even hit the billion. Let's worry about making the $1 billion club, okay? Let's worry about that. Because Batman versus Superman, which I still contend could have been the third member of the $2 billion club. Batman versus Superman, I'll contend, should have been the fourth member, I should say, to join the $2 billion club. You know, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Well, it would have been the third because it came out before Star Wars The Force Awakens. Anyway. And it didn't. It's Batman versus Superman. That should have been it. So Justice League will not join the $2 billion club. No chance in hell. Any more than any other movie this year, other than a movie named Star Wars, has any chance of joining the $2 billion club. I do believe, though, that it can join the $1 billion club, thus becoming the biggest comic book movie of the year at the box office. And I still believe it will. What are the conditions? It's got to get good reviews. It has to. Because we are seeing that people are seeing reviews and shying away if the reviews are bad and bad word of mouth comes out. And it's got a bit of an uphill battle because even though I like Batman versus Superman, a lot of people didn't like it. And I'm talking about fans. I'm not even talking about critics. There's a lot of people that did not like the movie. So you've now got to convince those people that didn't like Batman versus Superman to come and try again. You're going to get people like me that like Batman vs. Superman, no problem. We'll be back just like that. That's not an issue. The issue is getting those people who did not enjoy Batman vs. Superman to get them to come back. And the best way to do that is to get early word of mouth out there through the critics that the movie's good. And I think the movie's going to be good. I have not seen Justice League yet. Certainly not in its entirety. So I haven't seen Justice League yet. But I am standing by my prediction that I believe Justice League will crack the 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I could be dead wrong. I could be absolutely wrong by that. But I'm predicting Justice League cracks 70% to become only the second DCEU movie to do it. And I think it will. I think it'll be good. And it's just all about, but that's the condition. It has to get positive word of mouth early to help convince those people who were turned off by Batman and Superman to come back and give it another shot. Because if you can't get those people back, there's no way it cracks $1 billion. But I believe they will do it. Thanks a lot for the question, man. That's my thought on this. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Charlie's Ikari, who writes, John, should we be concerned that Disney has pulled Gigantic from development and Bob Iger has announced that he's stepping down in 2029? I don't know why you'd be concerned that they've canceled the movie. They had this movie in development, Gigantic. I believe it was a Jack and the Beanstalk movie, I think. Anyway, they had announced this a while ago. I haven't heard anything about it since, and they've decided to pull it. Hey, if they were starting to put it together and starting to think, you know what, we don't think this is working, and they stopped development on it, good. Turn your attention to a movie that'll be better. I think it's great. I am nervous about Bob Iger stepping down. Bob Iger has guided the Disney ship so beautifully to Disney being the most profitable it's ever been. He's a steadying hand. He's not reactionary. He is a visionary leader. He's a strong leader. Honestly, whenever you have big turnaround in leadership, it's a little nerve-wracking. And I'm a little bit nervous about who's going to come in and fill his shoes. So I'm a little bit nervous about that, but we'll see how that all kind of turns out. All right, next question. Again from The Last Journey writes, hey, John, now that we've seen Clark in a Justice League trailer, do you think we will see Superman in context, like a flapping cape or heat vision? I don't know. Like, I've always been 100% sure that we were going to see Superman, like whether that was as Clark Kent mode or in Kal-El mode. I was always sure we were going to see Superman in marketing. Will we see, though, Clark/Kal-El in the Superman outfit flowing in the air? I'm not so sure. With this last trailer only showing us that what looks like to be a dream sequence, it seems to me like they're taking the approach of, we're showing you that Clark and Superman's going to be in the movie. Everybody knows Superman's going to be in the movie, but we're going to hide everything else about him until then. That might be it. I think in future TV spots between now and the November release date, I think we will see more Clark. Whether we'll see more Superman, I don't know yet. I think that's a coin toss. That's a 50-50 thing. All right, let's move on. Next one here. Asand Nani writes, John, reviewers are saying Thor Ragnarok movie is the funniest Thor movie. Your thoughts on it being a Saturday Night Live superhero action movie? Look, I'm not allowed to review the movie. All I can tell you is, I will say this though, and just referencing the tweets that other people have put out, I have seen Thor Ragnarok. I can tell you what my tweet said. My tweet said, Thor Ragnarok is relentlessly entertaining. And so there you go. I reject the notion that a movie being funny is a bad thing. What kind of idiotic, stupid, moronic bull is that? Like, there are many things that are ingredients that can go into any movie to make it a great movie. great drama, great action, great plot twists, great humor, great scares, great this, great that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are elements that can go into making a movie great. Any one of those elements can make a movie great. And I just laugh. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're somebody who looks at all these critics saying that this movie is amazing, and one of the things that they're highlighting in it is how absolutely funny the movie is, if you look at that and point at it as if it's a negative thing, sorry, you've just tipped your hand. You've revealed yourself that you are biased. You've revealed that you are a person who is looking for things to criticize. And man, if you are so desperate to find something to criticize that you point at all the critics saying, this movie is amazingly funny. If that's what you're resorting to point to as a negative thing, you are truly, truly desperate and pathetic. All I can tell you, again, I cannot give a review of the movie. I am just going to tell you, again, what I said in my tweet. Thor Ragnarok is relentlessly entertaining. Taika Waititi is the man. Taika Waititi is the man. And I think I can give you a prediction. Again, I'm not giving a reference to the movie. I think audiences are going to love this movie. I think audiences are going to love Thor Ragnarok. And I can't say anything else more about the movie until October 19th when the review embargo lifts. But thank you a lot for the question. Let's see. Next one here comes to us from 123 Bender 12, who writes, quick question. Am I the only one that thought Get Out was much better than it? I liked it, but not as much. Look, Get Out was a great movie. It really was. I don't think it's like one of the top 3 or 4 best movies of the year, but considering all the asterisks that go along with Get Out, a first-time filmmaker in the horror genre, in a very low-budget horror genre, you put all those things together, and that just kind of amplifies how impressive a feat Get Out was. But to me, it was a better movie overall. That's not taking anything away from Get Out. I thought Get Out was original. I thought he did some great things in that movie. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Get Out. I really did. I think it is a better movie, but that's just me. And I can tell you right now, you're not the only one that thinks Get Out was better. There are a lot of people out there, again, who put Get Out in their top 5 films of the year. I don't think Get Out belongs up there, although it's great. And I can't wait to see look, if that's Jordan Peele's first movie, I cannot wait to see what Jordan Peele's 3rd and 4th movie. This guy is such a naturally gifted director because Get Out, I will contend, is all about the direction. The direction makes that movie. And if that's Jordan Peele's first directorial effort, this guy is going to be scary good. Like scary, scary good by the time he gets to his 4th and his 5th movie. So I'm very excited about that. But for now, I'll fall on the side. I think there are a lot of people who agree with you that Get Out was better than it. But I think there are also a lot of people who think that it is better than Get Out. I happen to fall on the side that it is better than Get Out. But let's just wait and see how it all pans out. All right, let's move on now. Going to load up a whole bunch of new ones. And we're going to start here with M to the Gourd, who writes, what are your thoughts on the premise for this year's Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Earth X? I don't know. Other than hearing the words, I really don't know. You can call it that, but we don't really know what it really is. And so until I know what it is, I can't really comment on it at this point. Let's see. Frazo writes, what happened to Man of Steel 2? Well, when will Man of Steel 2 be announced? If there's a bigger audience that'll enjoy it, people might go back and appreciate Man of Steel. I don't know what their plans are. Here's what I think. I think they've got a plan for Man of Steel 2, but while the death of Superman is still a hanging issue in the air with Justice League, they're not going to announce Man of Steel 2 until after Justice League. So I believe within a month or two after Justice League comes out, I believe we will hear an announcement from Warner Brothers about, actually, not just about Man of Steel. I think they're holding off on a whole lot of stuff. I think they're holding off on putting out any official Batman information, about putting out any Superman information. You know, if the Green Lantern does pop up in this movie, they don't want to announce a Green Lantern movie right now and kind of spoil that. I think within a month or two after Justice League comes out, I think we're going to hear a whole bunch of announcements, and I think Man of Steel 2 is definitely going to be one of those. All right, let's try this. CL Lone Wolf writes, John, will there ever come a time when fanboys will give up the DC versus Marvel nonsense? Proud fan of both here. I am also a proud fan of both. I like them both. I have both sides constantly accuse me of being on the payroll of the other. Never stops. Seriously, every single day I get emails from brain dead Marvel fanboys who are like, you're clearly, why are you always jumping on DC's crotch? You're so on Warner Brothers payroll. I constantly got the other side from brain dead DC fanboys. Why are you, that's the funny thing too. It's always revolving around, like, I got one side constantly accusing me of doing nothing but propping up DC movies. And I got the other side accusing me of doing nothing but tearing down DC movies. So my attitude is that I just don't care. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. Will there ever come a time? No, probably not, because there will always be stupid people. There will always be stupid people. And look, again, let me emphasize this too. I am a fan of both Marvel and DC. And if you're not a fan of both of them, that's totally fine too. There are lots of people out there who they love comic book movies, but so far they haven't really liked the Marvel ones, but they're open to liking a Marvel one if a Marvel one comes out that they really like, and they don't start out by looking to bash a Marvel movie. There are lots of Marvel fans who just haven't liked any of the DC movies yet, but they're excited to see a good DC movie, and they're not bashing DC movies before they come out. So it's totally fine and totally great if you're a comic book movie fan. It just so happens you happen to be a bigger fan of DC or a bigger fan of Marvel, but you got nothing against the other side. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Saying, hey, I prefer my movies DC, or hey, I prefer my movies Marvel. There is nothing wrong with that in the world. It's when you get these brain dead fanboys that define themselves. This is always what I go back to. The difference between fans and the fanboys is that the fans define themselves by what they love. Fanboys define themselves by what they hate. And that's the difference. So you get these DC fanboys who are like, they define themselves by the fact that they hate Marvel and they will talk trash about anything Marvel any chance they get. You get the Marvel fanboys that define themselves by the fact that they hate DC and they'll trash DC any chance they get. Look, you put out something bad and something that looks stupid in the world of DC, I will call it bad and stupid. You put out something bad and stupid in the world of Marvel, like Iron Fist, like Inhumans, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I will call it bad and stupid. But you put out something I really love, I'm going to say I love it. You put out Man of Steel, I'll call it a top 10 comic book movie of all time. You put out a Civil War, I'm going to say it's a top 10 comic book movie of all time. I don't care. I just want good movies. I'm a comic book movie fan. I don't care what corporate label is on it. Like a lot of people, they live and die by, oh, there's this comic book movie coming out. I can't say whether I like it or not until I see the corporate label. Then, because I give all of my worship to the corporate label. I am a slave to the corporation. Stupid nonsense. Anyway, that's as good of a place as any to end today's show. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Listen, while you guys are here, if you haven't done so already, make sure you click on the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you like these videos, help me out. Click the thumbs up button, leave a comment. And remember, guys, we're all film fans together here. Let's talk to each other. Let's debate. Let's engage. Let's disagree, but do so respectfully, understanding we're all brothers and sisters together. We're all film fans together. Let's have those conversations together. So that will do it for me, guys. I've got a whole lot of stuff coming up on my YouTube channel today. I should be getting up a review today for Only the Brave, the new firefighter film with Jeff Bridges, Josh Brolin, Miles Teller. I should also be having a new review coming up for Happy Death Day. You know what? It wasn't awful. Anyway, I've got a review for that coming up a little bit later today. Got a whole bunch of stuff going on today, so make sure you hang around and stick with me. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. And until next time, bye-bye.